Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level. Second level, baby. Second level.
The first thing I want to talk about is kind of Spearhead in general. Like, how did Spearhead come to be? I saw the profile on the press kit, kind of, it formed up, but how did it come to be, and how did you join Spearhead Games?
Well, I didn't join Spearhead, I started it.
Fair enough.
So yeah, basically, I had spent some time on AAA titles. My first project was actually the first Assassin's Creed. I was a level designer on that game.
Mm-hmm.
I worked also on the second Assassin's Creed as a game designer. I worked on the Prince of Persia 2008, the one with no subtitle.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved on to EA, where I worked on Dead Space 3. So I had like a couple games shipped on AAA. And at that point, after finishing Dead Space 3, I was like, there's this indie stuff that's starting. It was still starting at that back then. Mm-hmm. There was 2 other studios I knew of in Montreal, and I want to try something different. I can see that AAAs are growing bigger and bigger, and maybe there's something to do with smaller games, less production-driven. Maybe look at doing something innovative, things like that. Different approach. And Atul, which you met, which is also the co-founder of the studio, had similar ideas. I'm like, okay, let's do this thing. And we started Spearhead like that, basically, which is almost 6 years ago now.
Isn't it crazy how time flies?
It's we had time. It's Omensight is our 4th game already, so we ship games pretty fast, mostly because as indies we don't have infinite budgets and stuff like that.
Yeah, Atul said 18 months roughly for this one. I was like, oh my gosh, that's nuts.
Yeah.
So do you think having a AAA background helped you when it came to starting your own studio with getting the design done and kind of having the creative freedom?
Yeah, absolutely. Going through AAA was essential to me to start a studio, because I learned how to make games. I learned some of the difficulties of making games. I practiced my craft on other games.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't come there with like a total noob, like, what the fuck is a game? What should I do? Okay, I have this idea. Like, okay, I need a programmer senior that can do this, and that. And okay, we need an animator and this. And all that stuff was invaluable. Obviously, it's still very different. And then there's more learning that came after that. Like, it's totally different having a 15 people team than a 100 people team.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how you organize, how what can people do, what you can achieve, and all that. So that was a learning that goes over the year, and that I feel I'm still learning, because that might segue into a future question you have. The game industry is in constant flux, and you can never say you've mastered it at any point. Otherwise, you're crazy and you're probably going to fail. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the other thing, especially for indies, I'd say, more so than AAAs. Because they can brute force things with lots of money, and we can do that.
Yeah. they have the assets to be able to maybe side or misstep or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So getting into Omensight itself, if somebody doesn't know what Omensight is, can you give like your elevator pitch, your quick spiel of what Omensight is?
Sure, real quick. Yeah, it's an action murder mystery game. So yeah, it is an action-adventure game with an interactive storytelling, choice-based, where you actually try to solve a murder of a very important person in that game world, which death basically caused the end of the world. And very early in the game, you see the world ending, and then you have to solve that murder through a time loop where you replay that day and figure out different clues, different information you can gather until you can solve it and hopefully save the world. That's very quickly the gist of it.
So one of my questions is, when did you come up with that kind of the time loop for the day of going back and replaying? Was that something early on that you're like, this is going to be what the structure's built on, or was that something later on that happened?
No, it was very early on, because we were coming from Stories, our previous game, in which there was a sort of time loop. There was, but it was used differently. The goal of Stories, it was more a choose-your-own-adventure type of experience, where the fun we created was exploring storylines. So you started at the same beginning, and then you made a sequence of different choices that led to a different ending, where usually you died, except for one, and then the fun was figuring out how not to die in that game. And it was like finding the fun of the what if scenarios, but that's part of the game, and seeing all these different outcomes, which was mostly purely fun of, oh, okay, this time I destroyed the world accidentally. Oh, this time it's an epic drama where I get betrayed. So we started with that, but with Omensight, we wanted to do something a bit different. Still keep that idea of you have choices that lead to totally different outcomes. You get to explore different timelines, if you will. But where we went with the murder mystery is we wanted the narrative to be more than just story. We wanted it to be a gameplay, actually. So basically a puzzle. So that structure creates a narrative puzzle where you explore narrative choices that are more than just narratives. You're actually trying to uncover a mystery. So every dialogue or every event is not just for the story entertainment value of it. It's also potentially something that allows you to save the world. So that's how we came up from there and then started evolving.
Gotcha. And as somebody who streams, it's great having your it's a perfect stream game of like, chat, what should I do next? Where are we going to go? And I loved it, especially with stories. Stories for me was probably the first game that our chat had all gotten behind when it was like, okay, this is something we're in together all the way to the end. And it was funny because I was like, oh, I'm going to call it. I was like 4 hours into stream one time. I was like, I'm going to call it a night. We're going to end it there. And they're like, no, keep going. Just one more. And you just keep doing that one more till you get, and you're like, okay, I did this, and this. I actually had one of our mods ended up making a chart of what all I had done to make sure we got all the different endings. Yeah. It was like, which decision did I make before that?
Yeah.
And I love that kind of stuff. One of the big mechanics of the game is the Omensights. So these, I called it a vision, essentially, is kind of what it is. And where did that concept come from of like having this vision, giving it to one of the characters in the game and completely changing or influence that interaction between those two characters?
So it comes early on in the R&D of the game. One thing that we wanted to do is actually not have dialogue choices in the game. Basically, why we would want to do something crazy like that in an interactive story is because we wanted the gameplay and the narrative to feel like a cohesive experience, not take you away from that flow of exploring a level, fighting things and all that, and then suddenly you're in a dialogue thing and then you come back. So we were trying to figure out how can we make an interactive story with gameplay vocabulary, and in the case of an action-adventure game with your sword and magic. So the sword is easy. You stab the guy and then, there's an outcome coming from that. But then what else? And the Omensight is like interesting because it's visual, It's like a fact, it's visual, it's a vision. And, we made sure they were powerful enough that it could change the behavior of someone. Like a big fact that changes their fate, basically. And that's how we built it. Through that.
I know when I got the first one, I was like, oh, this is what this means. And it makes you rethink because the game at that point is going along a certain path and you're like, okay, I'm going to bounce from character to character. And it's like, oh, you can redo this and change that big ending that you just had. And I was like, oh, totally new experience now.
Yeah, exactly. Each Omensight kind of changes things. Even though you're playing the same day, it's not the same event just because you can change them either by stabbing people or using your Omensight and basically changing their perspective on the world. You shake them in such a way that they go in a direction that should never have happened without your intervention.
And that's one thing I was telling you, Tool. I was like, because I love stories. It was an amazing game, but I felt like too much of that was the same thing, just repeated, and I felt like it's constant. With this, I kind of felt like you guys had learned what you took from there and didn't repeat. The going back to the same places didn't feel like it was a chore to kind of grind through them and get to the next spot. I wanted to explore. I got a key, so now I can open up the green door. I got a key and I can open up the blue door and like go to these areas I hadn't been before. What was the thought process behind kind of implementing that?
Well, yeah, for sure. After stories, it was one of the biggest criticism for the games. Like it's cool, but it gets repetitive. Like, yeah, you're right. And it's kind of a drawback of playing with time loops. It's a lot of fun narratively, but gameplay-wise, there's a risk there. So very early with Omensight, it was the first thing we were thinking about. We're doing time loop, but there is a risk with time loop in terms of gameplay or exploration because, yes, you are replaying the same day. You won't go somewhere else totally or something like that. So then it was about, okay, what can change? What can we do that keeps things fresh? And, there's different things. Coming to the same place in a different time of day and different events going on, for example, is one thing that you can do to make it feel like different. These places that you can now access that you couldn't before. The factions, for example, because you go somewhere with an opposing faction, the enemies are different. It's sort of layers of things that allow you to always have a little thing at least that's different. Mm-hmm. And also in terms of structure, with stories, you always started in the same location and ended up in the same location. So in this case, we said we need to mix things up. You can start someplace and then someplace else, and it will be different with every day. So to make sure it doesn't feel as repetitive, you hop around much more. It's much more varied in terms of what you do in a single day and where you go.
Which was an excellent choice. Like I said, I've not finished it yet. I was telling Atul I've gotten to where I have to get the key to the purple door. So I'm near the end, but I haven't quite gotten that yet. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what's behind said door.
Yeah, there's a couple surprises still.
That's what he was saying. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the game is the character designs. I think they are nailed beautifully with the variation of them as well as the characterization of them. It's kind of like picking a favorite child, but do you have one character that you just attach to more than the other ones, or?
It's difficult to say. I like them all for different reasons. Let's see. I like the character of Draga, but I like Ratika generally as well. Mm-hmm. I like Ludomir too. He's more straightforward a bit, mm-hmm. but he's he's a nice buddy,
and his cause, when you find out why he's doing what he's doing, it's like, okay, kind of grounds him.
Yeah, exactly. They're all much deeper than you think at first, and it's one thing that was important for us. We wanted characters that, they're animals. There's a reason also for that, is that you can immediately give them character traits and things like that, so you mm-hmm. can dive in deeper. Okay, that's the gruff bear, I get it. Mm-hmm. But no, wait, it doesn't end there. Keep going, and maybe you'll know more about that guy and his motivation and his backstory and all that. And it's true for all the characters, actually.
I was telling Atul that Ratika is one of those characters I don't know if I can trust yet or not. Like, there's moments where like, okay, I've got you, and there's other times where I'm like, I think you're telling me the truth, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. And we wanted her to have that bit of, each character, as you play with them, to give them a different feeling in terms of narrative. When you're with Draga, she's the smart one. She's kind of your assistant a lot of times. She's the most knowledgeable. She can guess immediately why you're there, and she tries to figure out how she can help you. And it's a different feeling as you play with her than with Ratika. I was like, well, does she have a hidden agenda? And it's a different feeling, and we wanted each of them to have that different feeling to them, So, yeah.
Which we were saying earlier kind of adds to that gameplay variance of when you go back. I mean, I have my favorites, and Ludomir is probably my favorite when it comes to just playing with him gameplay-wise. But Radika's story is probably the one that I'm most intrigued to kind of see where it ends up going in the end.
Yeah. She's really cool. She's quite complex when you deeper. Yes. Under her funny like facade, there's a lot going on actually.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, she's pretty. She was, I wouldn't say straightforward, but I thought I had her figured out. And then you have a sequence of events happens that opens it up again. You're like, oh, I had no idea what was going on here.
Yeah, and there's even more going on than I think it's hinted in some. Lost Memories, the collectibles. Mm-hmm. That might hint even more about her than what you see even immediately in the game. She's a very deep character, and I think if we ever do a DLC, she might be involved in that because there's stuff to explore with her.
I'd be all on board with that. I'm excited because I told my viewers when we're done with the game, we're gonna go back and read all the memories and kind of see, because we started it and we're like, everybody's like, no, continue with the game and finish it, and then we'll go back and see the backstory. So I'm interested personally to see what all the backstories are and this extra lore you're getting.
there's a lot of lore in there, and in my opinion, they're well written because, well, it's subjective because I made the game, but because they're written by, among other people, Janice Davis, which is an author. She's I don't know if you know about her, The Holder's Dominion and all that. So they're written in a narrative way. It's not just here's some lore dump. Here's a story about that character, actually, and that deepens more about them because the lore that you experience immediately in the game is we couldn't expose too much because you have an investigation to run and too much information will get you lost. That doesn't mean we didn't develop a full background of everything. And then some of it is hinted, but it's still there. And one way you can dig into that is by looking at these memories because they're storylines of these characters prior to these events and you get to know them more. Or even stuff much prior to that, the whole well, whatever. I can tell you a lot.
Don't want to spoil too much.
There's some cool stuff in there for sure. That's worth reading if you like the characters.
I also like the fact that you could explore and find them. I actually found my first one by accident because I went up. There's one section where you have the two ramps on either side and you can jump up top. And I was like, let me just go look, see what's up there. I found a chest and then I found this pedestal thing. I was like, I don't know what this is. And I love the fact that it's not necessarily something you just run into, but you reward the player for going and looking and searching throughout the game to get that for the people who want to get more.
Exactly. It's that second layer, for people who like exploring and like the lore, it kind of, to me, goes hand in hand. You want deeper, we'll give you deeper. You want, the straight line, it's there for you too, But if you want deeper, we got you covered. And that was important for us because that's also one thing with stories is, we see that people weren't just satisfied to just get to the good ending in a couple playthroughs. They wanted to keep exploring. So that was something that we wanted to, for people who want more, let's make sure we have something,
Are there any characters that didn't make the cut in the game that you kind of wish did?
Let me see. Did we cut a character? I don't think so. I think everyone is
Everyone
there.
made it?
Oh, my battery is running low. Hold on. It's not plugged. Alright. Should be fine now.
Plugged in.
Don't want to disappear mid-dancer or something. Did we cut characters? Well, very early, yes, but we've been with that quatuor of key characters for a long time. They changed a bit over time because we're trying to figure out how can we give them more interests, not stay in the archetype but keep digging deeper. But no, there's a key NPC like that we cut. Definitely not. The Harbinger changed. Fun fact, it used to be a human. Well, not a human, but a panda actually. But then we changed that a bit to focus more the narrative actually. Again, like I said, doing interactive murder mystery in an action game and making it a puzzle, it's actually quite a challenge, and we have to make a lot of things work well so that it's neither overwhelming nor too easy, or it's a lot of these little balancing acts of we need to say enough but not too much.
Got to make it all work out in the end where you keep the person engaged as want to know what's next, but give them enough that they okay, I solved something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I saw on a loading screen, and I read this after the fact, that the two games, Path Stories and Omensight, are theoretically in the same world. Was that something from the get-go, or is that how did that kind of come about?
No, it was always an intention. The matter after that was how connected they would be. And the more we built Omensight, the less we felt we needed to connect them very solidly. But there are some background stuff that are common to the two. And it's, aesthetically, obviously, it's in that world with the animals and all that. Similar, kind of type of magics and background lore with ancient gods and things like that. The mythology is the same, the universe is the same, but the stories aren't connected directly besides that, basically. It's something we discussed back and forth, and I said, no, let's go with this independent part of the world instead of going with it's still the same place. What's the name of that place? I have a memory blank. Boreas.
That's
That
it.
was the World of Stories. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought, because like I said, as somebody who played both, I had the stories vibe, but like you said, a lot of it's from the art style more than anything else. But when I saw that on the loading screen, I was like, oh. Then at that point, you're like, okay, let me see if there's any Easter eggs or anything that hark back to.
There are, maybe they're not that easy to find, but it's very possible.
I'm gonna go hunting now for them.
Yeah. Well, even if in the memories, possibly there's hints about that.
Oh, can't wait
Yeah, it's not it's subtle though. Where there's nothing in your face.
Just kind of.
What you're looking for, you might say, wait, that sounds familiar a bit. Yeah, there are connections. I can tell you that for sure, but they're not in the foreground. It's just that they're in the background.
Which is good, because if somebody hasn't played stories, that you don't want to put too much in that to kind of call back to. But if somebody, it's the philosophy. If you've seen season 1 of a show and you go back and you watch a season 2, there's something in season 1, but it doesn't ruin season 2 for you storyline.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's also a matter of tone also between the two games that made it so that we couldn't go exactly with the same thing. Stories is much more lighthearted, in the kind of adventure type of thing. But when you go with murder mystery, it can get darker. And then I don't see Reynardo trying to solve a murder mystery. It would not. He would just mess it up. So yeah, we needed to go a bit. Okay, it can't work with the same cast, definitely. Yeah, well, that story is resolved,
Yeah.
Story, so we need a new conflict, a new drama to start with.
With the art style, because it is so unique, and that's immediately what caught my attention when I saw the screenshots go up. I was like, oh, I need this game. How hard is it to implement? Somebody who knows nothing about making a game at all, how hard is it to implement a unique art style like that? Is it a primary focus, like, okay, we want this look for our game, or is it just kind of a nature of how you guys have made games?
Okay, so it's a bit of both in a way. So yes, it is a research of, our art director looks for styles, he does concepts and tries to figure out, what kind of visual the game should have, the visual identity of the game, basically. It's not random, it's something that's researched and iterated on, and then figure out how to do technically as well. And in the case of this style, the specific style of Omensight, the constraint is not technical, it's artistic. Because it's not like super realistic textures and super detailed models. It's about volumes and lighting and colors and composition. So the challenge is artistic. It's your eye of making that pretty. And it's a different challenge, a very different challenge. I wouldn't say it's easier, because in a way, if you have a photographic reference and you copy that, the challenge then is technical. How do you reproduce that photograph the most realistically possible? But then if you're conveying a hand-drawn style like Omensight, the challenge is artistic. How do I create a visually appealing scene with colors and shapes and volumes? And that's a very different thought process, actually. And we do that also because, one, the type of team we have, our art director has a background in graphic novels and he's very good with hand-drawn styles, and it's always, how do we convey that awesomeness in 3D? And that's the technical challenge more than anything, finding the right recipe to give that hand touch to it, that organic feel to it. And it's also because as indies, we just won't go into realistic, because realistic, you can very easily fall in the uncanny valley, basically, where it's not realistic enough and it becomes annoying because you kind of semi-fail at it. Would be it the animation, the lighting. The moment something's off, everything feels weird. Well, when it's hand-drawn, you can go more expressive, and you're not comparing to reality, you're comparing it intrinsically. Is it beautiful? Yes or no, or whatever. Do you like it personally as a taste? That's so that. So as indies, we'd rather go with that because it's not... It's less about production and more about smartness and art, which is something we can bring to the table. We can bring production power, right? We have like 3 artists, not 200.
Yeah, which is indies is a cool thing, because like you said, AAA is a lot of time kind of you focus on photorealism, and I love my cohort on the channel is makes fun of me because I love the cartoony, if that's the best way to say it, art style. Like I love anything that's got some sort of splash of color to it. I'm not a FPS guy at all, and like I said, the art to this was kind of what drew me in initially, and I was like, okay. And then I started reading what the story was about. I was like, okay. And in a sea of indies, it does help you stand out, and that's
true. Yeah, for indies, I think the style is important among indies to separate yourself by having your own style, your own way of doing things. And even if you do pixel art, there's ways to stand out as well. There's many ways to deliver that style too, even in the animation of the sprites and things like that. And it's something important. You can't just be generic, especially as indies, because you can back that up with $100 million budget of marketing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing we haven't talked about yet for the game is the combat system. Yeah. And it's probably one of the most fluid combat systems I've used in a long time when it came to just button responses and kind of understanding. Once you got the hang of the flow of how games would work, it would throw in a new mechanic, and then you'd go from there. What was the influence essentially of the combat system you guys put in it?
The best of a lot of different things, basically. The initial idea, generally, in that the experience of the game is, well, you're the Harbinger, you're a badass, so you shouldn't struggle to do badass things, first of all. So the flow-based mechanics that, I guess Batman is popular with, is a good start with that. It's like, you shouldn't miss. You're too good to miss, right? You should hit. That shouldn't be the challenge of this system. It's not about, oh no, I can't execute my combo properly. It's not Street Fighter. It shouldn't be like an execution. We established the fantasy where you're a badass, so you should be off the bat. Now, then it's not just a button masher though, and then you need to have depth and you need to have fun. And the next step is, how do you get that? And then it's about tactics and creativity, and that's where the powers come in. Okay, sure, you have a bunch of guys, and it's not a problem stabbing one of them. You press the button, it's going to fluidly go to do this guy to the next. Dodging is responsive, but still there's a bunch of guys. And now we give you a bunch of tools, we give you environment things. Now do something about that, like try to be creative. What opportunities can you get? What powers can you combine? And we make sure that all these things talk together in such a way that you always had a lot of options and lot of things you could do on top of that. So that's the general philosophy. And to get there, yes, it's about taking a bunch of, our own thing, but also, like I said, looking at Batman for the flow, but being more input driven. As a AAA, they have to be, more cinematic in a way in terms of animation. We want it, when you press the button, it happens. It has to happen fast and responsively and satisfyingly. Then in that case, then we need to look at Street Fighter because they're really good at that stuff. And then looking, how do they make a punch so satisfying? And then, sure, we take that flow from Batman, but wait, we take a responsiveness from games like Bayonetta or Street Fighter. Capcom Platinum are really good at that stuff. And then we had our own flavor, like, okay, we want a tactical aspect to it, a global thing with power. That's where there's not necessarily references, but, we go from there. So, different games do great things for different reasons, but then when we create our own, it's starting from that intention. And then some things we have to invent, but some things we don't need to reinvent the wheel because someone really nailed it. Then it's a matter of looking at how they nailed it.
And putting it so it works in your game.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the ones because initially at first I'm just hitting square, trying to knock things down and dodging out of the way. But as time went on, I found myself needing to slow down time a lot more. And that mechanic has probably become my main go-to. I call it the oh shit moment, where I just see like 20 enemies coming at me. It's like, okay, stop, take a breath, figure out what's going on. And like you said, the more tactical of like, okay, this guy is half health over here. Let me get him. And then, okay, this guy's got a shield. What do I do to get him out of the way? Oh, there's an environmental, whether it's a red barrel or the pillars that can be knocked over. And I love that aspect of like you're in this moment where you'll be slashing, and all of a sudden you'll stop and you're just back and trying to figure out where you're going to go next. And I love that aspect.
Cool. Yeah. Glad it worked because that was the intention. The slow motion is the core thing to make that happen. Because getting a nice flow and all that is cool, but if you don't have time to think, then you can never take that step back and actually, do cool stuff. So yeah, definitely that was the first thing. Okay, how do we get people to actually be able to go, let me look at this, stop stabbing me, because otherwise you'll just be stuck dodging. Then, okay, hold on, I can do better than just dodging. Pause, slow time. Okay, let's do this, and then it comes back to the intensity, so that there's that flow of intensity, thinking intensity, and yeah, I'm really glad you liked it because that was my intention with that.
It was beautifully well done. I also love the other thing because I'm one of those people that just roll in video games. If you give me a roll mechanic, the fact that the other NPCs would be like, "What are you doing? Why are you rolling everywhere?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just a thing I do. Don't break the fourth wall on me." That was a lot of fun. So let's go into some questions I have in general from our community about being an indie dev. And the most popular one was, do you have a favorite indie game that other people may not be aware of that you play?
That's a good question. That nobody plays. I have to think about that. I've been starting playing RimWorld, but I think people know about that game. So.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, so no, I don't think that one is obscure enough. Obscure. It's a tough one, man.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah. Well, like a game, because they're our neighbors, so I know them well. Mages of Mistralia, for example, they have a really cool magic system. And I don't think a lot of people know about it, but it's really cool. They should check it out if they haven't. It's a lot of fun creating spells in that game.
I looked that game up and I was like, ooh, this is... Because, again, my job is to dive deep in indie world and kind of see what I can find. And it was wonderful. Second question is, what is something as an indie developer you found to be the most challenging or something you didn't realize was going to be an issue becoming an indie developer?
When I started versus now, visibility. And because, well, it changed a lot during the moment where I decided to go indie since now. Back then, it's what I call the golden age of indies. Because, there wasn't that many indies, and there was gates. You couldn't release a game however you liked on Steam or on console. You had to be published, approved, whatnot. So if you released a game as an indie, you were guaranteed that people will know about it, and then, potential success would ensure as long as the game is good enough, Now, even if you release a good game, there's no guarantee people will know about it because there's so much things going on now. And that's the biggest challenge. And, I'm a designer. I know how to make games. I don't know how to sell them. So that's one thing I need to learn. And it's because the challenge also is that it's constantly shifting, and even things that you think are common sense don't even work sometimes. Like, okay, how do we solve this thing?
That's actually where, so I'm glad you say that from our perspective, because the reason we started our podcast, because we started out as we have a PS4 and PSVR podcast, and we're like, there's enough PS4 podcasts out there to drown everybody out. So we're like, let's focus on indies, because we hear the same thing of like, I have this game, I don't know what to do next with it. And for us, we call it our weekly spotlight on the podcast of like, here's an indie game, whether it's good or bad, we'll tell you, but you'll be aware of it. And we try to refine down these different experiences that 9 times out of 10 you want to have. There's a couple that we've said kind of stay away from just because they've been not the greatest execution wise. But I'm glad you hear that, because that is our goal as a channel, is to kind of find these for people to go to and like, oh, I should check that game out, because it gets lost in the sea of conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great that you do that, because it's definitely something that's, I think, needed for everyone, for the developers, but even for the players, because there's so much things. How do you know what you should be playing? Like, there's so, and sometimes you miss really good content because you just didn't hear about it, and that's too bad. For the developer that worked hard to make it, and for you, because potentially you may missed a great time with something that you would have loved. So
the amount of times one of our viewers will come to us and be like, have you seen this game? And I was like, no. And they'll send me a link to it. I was like, how did I miss this like 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And it's just the way, this is the nature of the beast right now, because like you said, there's, especially in indie world, there's so many games that are being released, but even, you're not just fighting indie games, you're fighting AAA games. Like God of War just came out, and everybody played God of War for, it felt like 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And, our experience with stories, I think maybe at some point it was on the PS Plus, free games month. And,
I'm super pumped to see that, so people other could play.
And, the feedback that we had is, holy shit, this is an awesome game. How come I never heard of it? Mm-hmm. That was the feedback we got. It's not like, I know now why I didn't get it or whatever. Mm-hmm. People just didn't know it existed. They got it was free, and then I would have paid for this had I known it existed. And then they go, I can give you money apparently. Yeah.
Well, that's why I really like what Rocket League did. Granted, they've kind of exploded since then, but they were the free game at launch. But then they have as much as DLC is kind of in hot topic, but they have the DLC that I've actually bought that game probably 3 or 4 times over, just wanting to support the developers because it's such a fun experience.
Yeah. And we didn't have that for stories. It's standalone game with, so like, well, thanks for giving me your time for free, but
yeah.
But, I'm still happy people got to enjoy the game because as a developer, it's still great, So.
And the advantage then is hopefully they'll connect that with like a game like Omensight. Like, okay, Spearhead did really well in the first one. Let me try this one out and see how it goes there because it looks in the same vein.
Yeah, hopefully that's gonna work out and people will. Carry over, and hopefully they'll be even aware Omensight exists so they can do that step. There's also that, even if you play stories, do you know Omensight exists? I don't know. We tried to make sure, we did our best to that, but, we don't have that much reach as an indie studio.
Let's say unless you're on a mailing list or something. Like as you know, I found, or I don't know if you know, but I found it through Terminals, which has helped us find a lot of games.
Yeah.
They are great. That's a great platform for us to be on because you hear about these games you would not have heard of otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. And for players, I don't know. I guess podcasts like yours is great for people to
live streams.
Yeah, exactly.
But even with the live stream from our side, like you have the PUBGs and the Fortnites that are dominating most of the viewers. And like when I streamed Omensight, I took a look to kind of see that day how many people were watching the various different streams, and there's not very many people streaming it, but there's also not a lot of people looking for the game. So it's that weird balance of like, how do you find your niche of what to do and where to cover it? And we found, for us personally, that the video on demand is better for indie games than live streams. And I don't know why that is, but it's probably because it's the over time things are able to be discovered about that game. So
that's interesting. I'll keep that in mind, though.
Yeah, because the initial launch weekend, like when we streamed it over the weekend, people are looking for it and they're excited. But as time goes on, the video on demand is kind of where the thing for us from our analytics kind of takes off and says, oh, okay, there's this game that came out a few months ago that somebody maybe is now just looking into or wanting to buy, and then go back and watch that versus watching the live stream that they weren't a part of at the time.
Yeah, it's true. It has a longer lifetime, which possibly is how indies work, like most of them or something. It's a thing over time, basically, when people discover it finally or when they have time to check a new game or something.
Word of mouth is an amazing thing.
Yeah, I guess. And that takes time to build up, People, even stories like people still talk about it here and now, and someone can still pick it up because they just heard about it 2 years after launch,
So I have to ask this question because my cohort said I had to. Switch, since it's been launched, Switch has been doing really well for indies. Do you have any plans of going on to Switch in the future?
Yes, we do have plans.
Okay.
Because, that's what we've been hearing as well, and we're very curious to see how that works for us. Yeah, and possibly I'm thinking a game like Omensight might be a good fit for Switch visually and in terms of an action-adventure type of game, maybe even more so than on Steam or even PS4. Maybe the Switch is the right platform for this game more so than any other, actually. So, definitely we have a plan. We want to see that. And, personally, I'm a fan of Nintendo, so... Sure.
I was excited when I saw the Switch doing well because I'm one of those few people that bought a Wii U and I felt like that didn't go so hot.
No. I'm glad the Switch worked out because Nintendo's are cool, and I'm a big fan of Miyamoto in terms of designer. He's one of my references, so for sure. And the thing is, why we didn't go with Switch is that when we started on the project, I'm not sure Switch was released first, and second, dev kits were not even available. Well, we have PS4 dev kits because we ship stories on it, so we'll start work. We need to start working. So
you're not the first one to say that about the Switch dev kits. We've had a lot of developers said, "Yeah, I would love my game on Switch, but I can't get anywhere a kit to develop it on, so I can't test it."
Yeah, because they had a limited number, and they would prioritize either like high-profile games or people who would ship soon. They're like, "No, we're not ready to ship. We're gonna ship like much later." So well, it's gonna take a while then because the demand was very high. So yeah, that's how it happened that we don't have a Switch version at this moment.
Gotcha. So we're going to get into the rapid-fire questions, and it's just going to be kind of first thing that pops into your mind when I ask these questions. I got 10 of them total. So question number 1, what's your favorite console of all time?
Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo? Number 2, something unique about Montreal that most people may not know about.
Oh, damn it. There's so much cool shit. The life in the summer. The energy of people in the summer.
The energy?
You have to experience it to realize what happens when you have a very long and hard winter and then you have summer suddenly.
I used to live in New Brunswick for about 6 years. Yeah. So when summer comes around, you get excited.
Yeah.
You're like,
and that carries over for the entire duration. There's that energy that if you live, I don't know, in California or a place where it's always nice weather, it's always constant. But here, that energy is really special. All the events, the festivals, people on the streets, on the, terraces and stuff like that.
Number 3, what is your guilty pleasure TV show right now?
Guilty pleasure. Okay, let me see. Right now, I'm watching Safe on Netflix. I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure or not, though.
But you're watching Safe.
Yeah. I'm watching also The Expanse and Legion, but I don't think these are guilty pleasures. I think they're just great. So.
They're just good shows, yeah.
They don't qualify as guilty pleasure.
Number 4, what is your favorite convention you've been to?
My favorite convention, it's one of the PAXs. I really loved my time in the last PAX South I've been through this year. It was really fun. The city is nice and the ambience is really cool. It's less crazy than the other PAXs. It's more relaxed and you connect with more people. You can talk to the players and all that. It was really fun.
PAX East is nuts. I've seen photos of going to PAX East. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Fun for other reasons because it's nuts.
Yeah. You see a lot of people show up there, and I think it's funny because to me PAX East is almost like kind of like E3, but not really. Yeah. Where it doesn't necessarily have the same overall, like the AAAs aren't there, but the indie game booth, I always keep my eye on what's there as somebody who covers it. I'm like, ooh, something cool is going to come out of PAX.
Yeah, and PAX South is much more indie friendly. The AAAs don't bother, so that's cool also for that feeling of we're all on the same boat, and it's cool for that as well. But yeah, E3 last year it was insane. It was ridiculous. I don't know if you've been. So many people, you couldn't breathe. Anyways, that one was not fun. I hope this year, but I don't think I'm going. But yeah, it wasn't. I think that everyone gave the same feedbacks. Like
it was nuts.
Yeah. You I can't move. I can't see anything. So yeah.
Question number 5: Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Question 6: What's the best fan experience you've had?
The best fan experience? Okay, there's a bunch of really cool ones. I think one I remember particularly is that when we were working on Ace a couple of years ago, which was a multiplayer game on Steam, one of our fans, like from I don't know where, came specifically to see us at our booth and even help out at the booth. Like holy shit, yeah, that's really like it was really cool, and we hang out with him and all that. That was a lot of fun.
Question number 7: what old game or old franchise do you want to come back? Considering we're in the year of remasters, it feels like.
I want a real sequel to Knights of the Old Republic for one.
I feel like a lot of people are with you on that one. give me some. Give me a good I'll start with a good Star Wars game that doesn't have a loot box issue.
Yeah.
I
was very disappointed by Force Unleashed.
Yeah. What is the last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw was Avengers this weekend.
The newest one?
Oh, no, sorry. It was Deadpool 2 this weekend. That was really fun.
I was like, did you like? Because I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Number 9: what music or what game music would be the theme song to your life?
Game music. I don't know, Omensight.
Fair enough.
The soundtrack is really cool. I like it. I love the guys. They're the same who worked with us on stories. They're really good. I love them.
Yeah, I
check this.
Yeah, I play with headphones all the time, and it's so much fun. Like getting lost, and it's the stuff you don't realize that's happening in the background that you just engrosses you that much more into it.
Yeah. For Omensight, they had a different direction where they wanted it to be more ambient than forward, more supportive. Which is a bit different. Stories, it was more forward in a way. Mm-hmm. The music took more space. In Omensight, it's more like it's always there and it supports the action, it shifts, but it never overpowers what's going on the screen. And that's really cool. So, it's an actual soundtrack,
mm-hmm.
which that's why I like it. And it's dynamic.
Last question.
Yeah.
Best part of being a game developer?
Sorry?
Best part of being a game developer?
You get to make games. And, I guess it's seeing people enjoy your games. I think that's the best part when you release it and people actually send you emails or messages on how they enjoyed it, how they spent a good time, or how it helped them in a dark time because, it was upbeat and it gave them, a boost or something like that. All these stories is why we make games for real, and that's great. It's worth the difficulties and the ordeals to actually get to the point where we ship the game.
I can imagine. Like I've talked to, as somebody again knows nothing about making a game. You talk to developers of just kind of the hurdles it gets just to getting to ship date. You're like, how do you just not stop? Because it's got to be labor of love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're not passionate, you can't do that. You can get much better paying jobs.
So let's do the plugs. If people are looking for Omensight or stories at this point, what platforms and how much?
So it's right now on Steam, GOG Humble Store on PC and PS4 on console. It's $19.99. Wait, I think it's still on. There's still a 10% off going on right now for launch. So grab it while you can. And hope you'll enjoy it because that's why we do games, for people to enjoy them. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, come at our Discord and tell us why, because we're always looking for feedback to improve. So don't be ashamed or anything. Not ashamed.
And if people are looking for more information about the game, where can they go to find more information about Omensight?
Our website, omensight.com, on Facebook, Spearhead Games MTL, Twitter, Spearhead Games MTL, or on our Discord. There's always some of the devs hanging around there, and community too. There's other people, if you're not around, that know us. So, yep.
Cool. All right. I want to thank you very much. This was quite informative, and I'm super excited for everybody to see this.
Cool.
It's been a lot of fun, man.
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.